Thank you everyone for joining this virtual presentation. My name is Hari Sitaraman and I'm a scientist at the National Renewable Energy Lab. In this video, I'll be talking about some of our recent work on developing a mesoscale modeling tool for catalysis, mainly steered towards bioenergy conversion process. This work was funded by the United States Department of Energy, Laboratory Director Research and Development, and the Bioenergy Technology Office. Moving on. Biomass thermochemical conversion and catalytic upgrading are complex multi-scale processes. Theoretical studies of the various phenomena in these processes require a strong coupling among various scales, all the way from atomistic at length scales of nanometers to reactor scale, which is maybe several meters. The intermediate scale, which is the mesoscale, connects the device scales to the molecular scales. Mesoscale entails the investigation of intraparticle transport. It requires the resolution of complex morphologies and can aid in the development of transport-dependent reaction and deactivation kinetics. As mentioned earlier, one of the big challenges in mesoscale modeling is the resolution of complex morphology, where you need high resolution at the interfaces where catalysis happens. And most often we use unstructured grid generation in most of the solvers that are used in mesoscale modeling. Chemical mechanisms for catalysis is also equally challenging to generate from atomistic simulations, and validation with experimental data is also necessary. Deactivation of catalyst particles by coking is also an important feature to capture, for which one may need dynamic feature resolution. In a sense, mesoscale modeling is a hard problem and requires high performance computing to address these big challenges. Which brings us to the objectives of this work, which is to essentially develop a mesoscale modeling tool mainly tailored towards gas-solid flows in bioenergy applications, which is the case in catalytic upgrading of biomass pyrolysis vapors, as well as other porous media flows. Our goal is also to ensure that this solver scales well on high-performance computing resources, be able to use hybrid parallelism, both distributed and shared memory, and also take advantage of the latest hardware, such as GPUs, that are increasingly being used in recent supercomputers, such as at Summit in Oak Ridge National Lab. We also want to address some of the challenges from the earlier slide on complex geometry resolution, chemistry, and dynamic resolution of geometries. This presentation is mainly about what we have achieved as of now among the objectives, which are highlighted here. And the rest of the talk will be on some of these simulations pertaining to catalytic upgrading and some results on performance of our solver. Our approach is to leverage open source library called AMRX, which is being actively developed at the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, NREL, as well as Argonne National Lab, and is tailored towards performance on upcoming exascale supercomputers. AMRX, at the core of it, is essentially a parallel adaptive mesh refinement library. It mainly provides block-structured AMR data structures and geometric multigrid-based linear solvers. So the PDE solvers for our specific problem need to be developed using its data structures, mainly in C++, along with GPU CUDA kernels. An example of a simulation with our solver is shown here, where AMR is used to resolve the small-scale vertical structures in the wake of a flow around a sphere at Reynolds number 4000. Next, I move on to what the governing equations are for our mesoscale model. We solve the Navier-Stokes equations in the compressible form for the gas phase, along with species transport in both gas and solid phase. The convection term is not present within the solid. We also use an AUSM plus up scheme for hyperbolic flux treatment, which works well for low Mach number flows. We also use a level set immerse boundary method at the catalyst wall boundaries or the catalyst gas interfaces. We use a reflection based boundary condition as shown in the figure for velocity at the interfaces. We also use temperature dependent transport properties and thermodynamics in our solver. This slide is about the chemistry that we use in our solver, at least for this particular case that we present in this work. We use a 7-species chemistry for the specific catalytic upgrading problem that we are studying. The problem is about upgrading of primary vapors from biomass pyrolysis using a zeolite catalyst in a circulating riser reactor. There are 3 species in this chemistry in the gas phase that include the reactant primary vapors, product hydrocarbons, and furans, phenols, and naphthols are classified as 1 species in this chemistry. The solid phase consists of the coke that is formed from conversion of the carbon in the primary vapors, as well as 3 site species. This chemistry has been developed through other simulations that are fit to experiments done at NREL. The deactivation timescales are typically on the order of thousands of seconds, while the transport timescale in our simulations are order of several microseconds for a 50 to 100 micron particle. Therefore, to circumvent this timescale disparity, we use what's called an operator splitting method, where the chemistry is advanced separately from the transport and coupled together through a splitting approach. This slide kind of summarizes the parallelization strategy for our solver. It is mainly handled through AMRX. The computational domain is split up into boxes, typically something like 32 or 64 cubed. The boxes are then distributed among forces using a space filling curve method, as shown in the middle figure. Each box is either parallelized via smaller tiles for use with OpenMP threads based shared memory parallelism, or the entire box is offloaded to the GPU and the stencil operations are performed using asynchronous GPU kernels. The data movement between GPUs and CPUs are managed from within AMRX. Currently, the setup is for 1 GPU per MPA rank configuration, which works well on machines like Summit, where there are 6 GPUs on a single node. Moving on, the next few slides are really about the actual catalyst particle simulations that we have done using our solver. One of the important things about our solver is that we are able to import catalyst particle geometries directly from X-ray tomography data in the form of MRC and TIFF files, 3D TIFF files. The pixel data, along with the threshold, is used to identify the solid domain. And what you see here is the dynamically created AMR mesh. It has 4 levels and it is able to refine at the gas-solid interfaces where catalytic phenomena really happen. In addition to using MRC and TIFF files, we also have a feature to extract level sets from STL files using a ray tracing method. Now we move on to some of the non-reacting simulations pertaining to the catalysis of biomass pyrolysis vapors. First, we run the non-reacting case. The setup is similar to the catalytic upgrading experiments that are done at NREL using the Davison circulating riser reactor shown on the right. What the particle size for this simulation is 100 microns. In the experiments, the primary vapors are within a background gas of helium. We assume the free stream conditions as shown here. And we solve the flow to steady state, and that solution is what is shown here, where I'm showing the streamlines as well as the primary vapor concentrations. Moving to the next slide, these are on the reacting particle simulations. The reacting simulations are started from the non-reacting steady state. The video here shows the formation of coke on the surface as well as within the porous outer region of the particle. The picture in the middle shows partially deactivated particle from imaging, and you can see that there is qualitative agreement between the simulation and the imaging. On the right hand side, what is shown is the hydrocarbon product concentrations. It is mainly formed in the porous inner regions of the particle where catalysis happens and is transported out of the particle via the background flow as well as diffusion. The plot on the right shows concentration of coke and catalyst sites over time, indicating how coke formation is deactivating the catalyst. The catalyst site concentration is reducing while the coke concentration is increasing. And the deactivation timescales in the experiments are on the order of tens of minutes, and we are able to qualitatively match this timescale within our simulations. The next two slides really are pertaining to performance of our solver on high performance computing resources. This slide shows performance using MPI as well as shared memory, OpenMP. We have done a strong scaling study on NREL supercomputer Eagle, and this is for a catalyst particle simulation with 576 cube cells, which is about 200 million cells in total. And you can see that the strong scaling is good, and it follows the ideal line to up to about 10,000 MPa ranks, which is 20% of the supercomputer. For OpenMP, what I'm showing is the scaling for cases where we run with 32 cube boxes. So for a domain with 32 cube, you can see that on a single node with 36 OpenMP threads, there is good parallel scaling. The next slide is on GPU performance. This slide is showing performance pertaining to GPUs on Eagle supercomputer, which is at NREL, as well as at Summit, which is Oak Ridge National Lab supercomputer. GPU performance strongly depends on data transfer. The plot here shows the factor of improvement when using a single GPU versus using a single CPU core for varying problem sizes. Performance on two machines are shown, Eagle and Summit, on the left hand side. Eagle at NREL has relatively older Tesla GPUs, while Summit has the Volta V100 GPUs. Summit shows superior performance, and the factor increases with increasing problem size, again because there is more arithmetic intensity when going to larger problem sizes. Sometimes I feel it is more practical to show speed up for a single node where one can use all the CPUs on a single node or use all the GPUs on a single node. So there are 6 GPUs on a node on Summit, which gives about 4 times speed up compared to using all the CPU cores on Summit. I think there are 42 CPU cores on Summit, and we are able to get about 4 times speed up compared to just using CPU cores. Similarly, on Eagle, we see about 2 times speed up using just the GPUs instead of using like 36 CPU cores on a single node. And this kind of brings us to the end of this presentation. There's a lot more work to be accomplished in this research. We have developed a mesoscale modeling tool using the AMRX library, and we have incorporated Adaptive-Mesh-Refinement as well as complex geometry representation, hybrid parallelization, and we have studied a case of biomass pyrolysis vapor upgrading over a zeolite particle. And in future work, we will study performance optimizations on GPU, incorporate heat transfer effects, and also study other catalysis problems. And thank you, and I will be happy to answer any of your questions. If you have, please do email me at the email address shown here. Thank you very much for listening to my talk.